So I've been talking about the same thing for a while, and I want to try to not talk about the same thing this time. Um, I wanted to talk about the other. I've been talking about intersubjectivity and the we world and how we can communicate and exchange and just be all happy and together and understanding of one another and stuff. But then there's always still this other that we're always going to have to deal with somehow. I mean, I have to deal with it. I feel this other always because it's just the unknown is what you can't predict it, and knowing you can't predict every possibility, that there are some things that are impossible that are still possible. In other words, like you would never have predicted it based on your experience, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So I mean, and some people don't experience an other, and that's possible. But I definitely have a sense of what the other is like. It's fear, and it's introspection. I mean, if you're I mean, I'm pretty introverted, and I think it's because I have a strong sense of the other, of what's not me, and I don't not only what's not me, but what's in a sense what I'm subject to, what I'm encompassed by, what I'm um, at the mercy of. I feel that strongly, and I mean sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do. Um, YouTube has definitely affected that relationship, the way I've related to the other, because this is, I mean, I'm staring into a black dot on my computer screen, and I know a few of the faces that are going to see this video, and that's really cool, and I'm enjoying having conversations, but there's also this faceless audience that I never see. I mean, who knows how many interpretations are getting put onto this, and how many different ideas they are of my personality and who I am, that I'll never even know about. All of those possibilities that for me are impossible. I can't fathom what they could possibly be, but they exist for all of the faceless faces that are watching. So that's weird. This is weird. I mean, I've been posting all these videos so fast, um, just because I was excited by the ideas, and then when I'm done, then I look back and I think, wow, what am I doing? What is this? What's going on? What is this YouTube thing? And how is this going to change the world? Is it going to change the world? And I don't really know the answers. I don't know. I mean, I'm optimistic sometimes, and then other times I don't know if I'm crazy. I don't know how. I mean, I don't know. But it's doing something. I mean, I can feel it doing something to me, posting videos like this. So anyways, enough reflection. Now I want to actually present something here. Uh, One idea from a very thick book by Jean Gebser called The Ever-Present Origin. There's some stuff in here that I'm not going to understand, maybe ever. I've only read it once, and it's going to take a couple more times before I understand what the hell this guy's really talking about. But he this book is about a study of the artifacts and the texts and paintings and sculptures and architecture and everything that the human race has left behind. Gebser pretty much studied it in detail in order to decipher what the state of consciousness of that people would have been, and based on all this archaeological um, artifacts, this artifactual material, he constructed, he interpreted it into these discrete levels of consciousness. And all of these stages are present with us even now in our stage, because they group on top of one another and encompass the lower one, but still contain it. So we have these experiences, and that's how Gebser really justifies the kind of intense interpretation that he's doing, because he's saying, I have access to these levels of experience. I'm a human being with access to this pure human experience, and I'm going to go and look at all these, ancient paintings and stuff, and I'm going to figure out what these people were thinking. Like, what does this mean? What does this Picasso painting mean? What does that say about modern life? We're obsessed with time, because this is like Picasso's trying to paint movement into this picture. The woman is not in one place, and Gebser will go all into depth about the painting and how it epitomizes the modern culture. And the modern world is sort of this transition period between the mental stage of consciousness and the integral stage of consciousness. And the stages are archaic, magic, mythic, mental, integral. And I'm not going to really go into detail about archaic, magic, and mythic right now. I think basically archaic is prehistoric man, magic is tribal man, mythic is Homeric Greeks, mental would be Enlightenment Europe, and integral is, well, I'll try to get into that right now. So basically, why don't I just quote from Gebser's book here. One difficulty which to some will seem insurmountable is the difficulty of representing the aperspectival world. And the aperspectival world is the integral world, because the integral consciousness is going to be the only consciousness that can see through all the layers of consciousness, all the way back to archaic. It has access to that all at once instead of being fixated on one. So it's aperspectival. This world goes beyond our conceptualization. By the same token, the mental world once went beyond the experiential capability of mythic man, and yet this world of the mind became reality. Anyone who objects that the aperspectival world is, in spatial terms, unimaginable, incomprehensible, impalpable, inconclusive, and unthinkable, and there will be no end to such objections, falls victim to his own limitations of comprehension and to the visual representation imposed by his world. Some will undoubtedly also be irritated by the talk of irrational possibilities, which are not to be confused with the irrational or pre-rational. So, I've been talking a lot about representation. That's all I've been talking about. And that's what we really need to transcend. That's the core of all of this. The next stage of evolution for our mind, for our experience, requires that we dispose of this, not dispose of, but see through this representational way of existing. Because it makes sense to talk about it like we do represent the world. And the computational metaphor, from its own perspective, is right on. You can't really argue with the theory of it. It's just the application to life and experience. That application, as soon as you apply it to that, it all of a sudden has a crack in it. The beautiful conceptual shell of mental representation and this mirror of nature theory that seems to be, a closed loop that just makes sense, that we can totally describe and decipher and know. That has a crack in it when you get this aperspectival view. Just as the magic structure cannot be represented but only lived, the mythical structure not represented but only experienced, and the rational structure neither lived nor experienced but only represented and conceptualized, so the integral structure cannot be represented but only awared in truth.